All right. Hello, Pilleater. How are you doing?
Oh, hello. Sorry, just let me. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hold on. All right. I wanted to ask you a question. Um, I don't know if you know about. I'm trying to look at archive videos. I don't know what your stance on homosexuality is, and personally, if we're talking genetics, I personally know some people who are gay but are also sympathetic to say the alt right, and they want to have a place as, this Milo, gay far right thing, if it's ever something. And I jokingly refer to it as homo nationalism, but the word homo nationalism, that's some kind of pseudo academic word you can find in Wikipedia page. So, I mean, I would like to ask maybe, is homosexuality genetic? And if so, should we do this we was homos motif and advocate homo nationalism, or just leave homo nationalism alone for like the leftists or something?
Those are interesting questions. Um, I think it's a natural expectation that there should be close to as many conservative in the homosexual population, or at least people who are bent toward conservatism based on their biological political preference. So I expect lots of gay people to be conservative at heart and to even believe in stuff like the need for the continuation of the reproductive line. I mean, the way the way gay genes enter a population is probably through the back door, if you will. And that's been recently demonstrated in a scientific study from 23andMe, and I have a video on that, where it seems that the genes that are likely to make you gay, they are also likely to make the opponent's sex. So if you have a gene that makes a male gay, it also has a chance, if it finds itself in a female, to make that female more beautiful. And so that's the evolutionary reason why you have gay genes popping up in a population. It's because it makes the other sex somehow better at sex, better at selection. And, and so if that's the case, and let's say we work with this as a working hypothesis, we recognize that, okay, the study is not super solid yet, it's just an abstract at the Human Genetics Symposium, but let's suppose that the conclusion is true. Then that means that what makes you gay is not an ensemble of 10,000 genes that also change all of your political preference. And so we expect to have gays that are otherwise normal on all behavioral measures and political preferences. So the fact that there are gays that are sympathetic to the alt-right doesn't make sense rationally, but it makes sense scientifically. And what do I mean by that? I mean that rationally it doesn't make sense because the alt-right is about the continuation of a people, and if you're gay, you're not continuing the people. You have to be somewhat an hetero to make babies, even if you are for 1 second in your life. It's needed. So rationally, it doesn't make sense to be gay and alt-right. However, at the biological level, these things are all processed by different genes, different brain regions, and one can coexist within the same individual as the other, that is gayness and a care for the continuation of a people. So what now to your second question, therefore what should we do? And should we welcome these people? The thing is, I think intergenerationally, and so to me, the gay question is a limited question in time. In 100 years from now, there will be less gays than there is now. Or they will have found some scientific technological mean to produce babies, or some tripartite family structure where they can produce babies. And that tripartite family structure will inevitably be heterosexual in some dimension, because you need an egg and you need a sperm, and I don't expect this to not be the case within the next 100 years. So when you think of things across generations like me, the question of gays is not so relevant because they will eventually disappear from the world. And so I say there are gays today. They may be sympathetic to our ideas, and personally, as a libertarian, I find no reason to reject them. So I say let's welcome them, but let's not found any hope on them in the intergenerational time scale because they won't be there anymore.
Well, I also noticed too, because I kind of did a own skeptic video on this, that I noticed that if you look at gay pornography, it's as if that if you look at such as the twink and bear thing, it's as if what you were just saying, that if gays were to have a the science fiction notion that they can have kids, something Sam Hyde said on his TED Talk speech, right? Then obviously someone has to be like this feminine woman type. And obviously it's almost like in gay sexuality, it's like there's this mind or this cognitive thing where you think you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
And I think, is it true to say that even if you're a homosexual, are you hardwired in your brain to look at a fellow male as feminine as possible? Because when you look at like bear on Pornhub, just like this dad, or they call it the daddy, it's just like horrifying. It's almost like rape itself. So how can you find that aesthetically and beautiful pleasing? Obviously, the gays I know liked femboys or some kind of traps. And I think that has to do something with biologically how we see people, where even if we prefer men, we want the guy to look like a yaoi girl figure instead. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't
Absolutely.
know if you could...
No, you're touching at the heart of all this. And ultimately, in a very crude fashion, here's my theory of homosexuality. The homosexual gene is not an homosexual gene. It's kind of a narcissistic gene that makes you love yourself and want to be more beautiful. And it makes you so narcissistic that if you're a woman and you have it, it makes you put makeup on and act all sassy, and it attracts men. Now, when it finds itself in males, it gives you the same behaviors, but you're in a man, and therefore you have more sassy, more beauty-oriented, more physically-oriented males, and they have such a desire to be looked at as sexy objects that they cannot find this pleasure in a relationship with a female, because the female brain is not designed to go crazy in front of physical sexiness. It's designed to love your money, to love your social status, etc. And therefore, the narcissistic brain that grows under the power of these genes ends up making the guy find himself to be loved and to be more satisfied by another male, because the male can satisfy this desire of physical attraction that the narcissistic mind needs.
All right. I think that's awesome. And I think I'll probably use that as a citation if there's anything of a
It's a theory at this point, but the early results of the 23andMe study, they highly suggest that this is the case. Now, I want to address another point, a very intelligent point made by Take Cover on the regular chat. He says, but if the gene makes women more attractive, then why would gays die out intergenerationally? That's a good question, but there is an answer, and the answer is the genes are still under a pressure to be more controlled by evolution. All you need is another gene to evolve that triggers off these genes when they are in a male, and that triggers on these genes when they're a female. So it's not that the gene for homosexuality will disappear, it's that it will be tamed by another gene. All it needs is a little hormone that will trigger some cellular process that will turn off or turn on these genes, whether there's lots of testosterone around them or not. So all you need is a testosterone-dependent modulation of gene expression. Now this keeps evolving, it keeps appearing everywhere in nature. And so I have no doubt that it's very easy for these genes to evolve. They just haven't reached that point yet.
Awesome. I think that's okay. Great.
So in the future, we will have sassy and sexy females and males that are attracted to vaginas. That is my prediction.
My prediction is I think there'll just be more traps and femboys, and the whole traps are gay thing will become real, or it's just like guys dressing up as anime figures. I don't know. Maybe that's just my.
If we open up homosexuality reproduction through technological means, you are correct.
Awesome. Thanks.